What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is the Duel Factory, and full disclosure, this profile probably should have came out 2 weeks ago because that's when I played in the event. But since then, a ban list has come out. We have a new set coming, and there was a lot of change in the meta. But I played this deck at a regional in Indianapolis. The original deck idea goes up to one of my buddies. It was completely all his theory. I just happened to play test and made my suggestions on how we should change the list and stuff like that. And this is what we played. We did play it at a regional in St. Peter's. I think he did better than I was doing. But then we both ended up dropping the event. And then he decided he was going to play Paleo for Indy because he just wanted to have fun. And I decided to play this. And I ended up going X2, finishing 7-2. I got 20th, got my invite for the first time since I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively again. Which, in all fairness, is it's very unimpressive in the grand scheme of things. But I wanted to show you guys this list because I think a lot of theory went into this list, and I think that my buddy really was on the right track on how this deck should be played. Obviously, that changes when the new set comes out and we get our new support. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get into the profile. Note, the side deck won't be in it because since then a new ban list has come out, and it does have some limit in it. But I'll go over some of the cards and stuff like that I played. But we'll start off with the main deck. It's a Voiceless Voice Dogmatika deck for all intensive purposes. However, it's not your typical Dogmatika package, so we'll go into that. So we played 3 copies of Lo, which for those of you who don't know what Lo does, she's real simple. If she's used for the ritual summon of any light ritual warrior dragon, she'd be used as the whole ritual, and then whenever she's normal special summoned, she can place a Voiceless Voice spell or trap directly from the deck face up. And then if a light ritual warrior dragon is special summoned to your side of the field, she can be special summoned from the graveyard. And the whole deck revolves around her. You have to have her. And then we play 3 copies of Saphira. This is your main searcher for the deck in terms of your ritual monsters. Note, a lot of people don't know this, but her add effect is optional. So she can be activated under draw if you simply just need her in the graveyard. And she's also the main way we ritual summon by banishing her to the graveyard to conduct a ritual summon. You still have to have the tributes in hand or on field, but you definitely play 3 of this card. You can't play any less. And then we play 1 copy of Sarveus. This is more or less where your grind game comes in. He lets you cheat out the ritual monsters if your opponent activates a card effect. Also, he's integral because he recycles your spell cards and your ritual spells, which is really important. But I wouldn't play more than 1. He gets real cloggy real fast, even at 1. And then for the ritual monsters dedicated to Voiceless Voice, we play 2 copies of Skull Guardian. He is an Omni Negate. He searches the monsters. He becomes 4100, and he is the while Lo is on the field, that's how he gains his ability to negate a card effect. And then we play 2 copies of Sarveus. Sarveus is really, really important to the deck. Shoutouts to Bobby. He wants his card banned, but I think he just sucks, but whatever. But he has 2 effects. So he can, obviously everyone knows the discard to prevent a targeting effect from happening. But his other effect is when he is on the board and your opponent with special summon. Note, it has to be an inherent summon. But he can return himself to the hand, negate that summon, and banish that card. And that effect becomes up a lot, especially since we can ritual summon his deck. Plus, the ritual spell actually names this card, so it can be searched with preparation, right? So it's really cool. So there's a lot of lines you can do. Granted, they're 2 card combos, but they're lines where you can search this card to your hand and then summon Skull Guardian without Lo being on board, and then you could safely search Lo with Skull Guardian through an Imperm or a Veiler, which is really cool. And then for the Voiceless Voice spell cards, we play 3 barriers. This is your Rhoda, and it is also what causes the targeting protection. So while you control a light ritual monster and Lo, Prayer of the Voiceless Voice, light monsters on your side of the field can't be targeted by card effect, and your opponent must attack light ritual monsters. Note, the fact that it says light ritual monsters is actually very, very important in our deck list, and I'll show you why here in a second. And then we play 1 of the trap card. The reason I like playing the Dogmatika cards is because it can recycle this trap card if need be, which if you play the Diviner version, you cannot do that because you don't have a way to recycle it. But it has 2 effects. It can either summon search, or it can pop cards on the field up to the number of ritual monsters that you control, destroying itself. Then we play 2 of the ritual spell. This is what you're sending off of Saphira most of the time, but if you have to activate it, one of the important things to note about this ritual spell, it can ritual summon any light ritual monster, but the monsters you tribute must also be light. The graveyard effect is the most important, though. Whenever a light ritual warrior dragon leaves your field by opponent's card effects, you can banish it, and you can special summon one Sarveus, the Ancient Ascended, Skull Guardian, Protector of the Voiceless Voice, or Saphira, Queen of the Dragons. And like I said, it ignores the summoning conditions, so you can just summon them out, which also re-triggers your low, so you can keep the lock going the entire time. And that's it for the voiceless part of the deck. Now we'll get into the Dogmatika part, which I think is the more interesting version, and the reason I think this is the best version of the deck. So the Dogmatika version always plays the one Maximus. It's level 8. It can send 2 monsters from the extra deck, then send 2 from your opponent's extra deck. It meets the ritual requirement for all the cards. And then the best reason to play it is 3 copies of Nadir Servant, right? And that's typically the only Dogmatika cards you would see in the version of the deck. But because me and my buddy thought that Diviner was the worst card in the deck, but we needed an extra push in the deck, we decided to expand on the Dogmatika package, and he just showed me this list, and I immediately thought that this was the best version of it. But we play 1 copy of Dogmatika Albazoa and 1 copy of Ecclesia the Virtuous. Note, we only play Ecclesia because it searches, it searches Albazoa if you need to, but it also searches Dogmatika Matrix. And Albazoa, for what you guys don't know, this card's insane. So, while this card's face up on the field, Dogmatika monsters cannot be affected by Link, Synchro, XYZ, or Fusion. And then he has another effect. When you activate it, your opponent can choose to resolve one of the effects. One is he can return all Synchro, Fusion, Link, or Synchro, Link, XYZ, Fusion on the field to the extra deck. Now note, if they don't control any, they can't choose to resolve that effect, so they must resolve the other one, which for every 2 cards in your extra deck, you must send 1 card from your extra deck or 1 card from your hand for every 2 that you have in the extra deck. So for example, if you activate this turn 1 and they have 15, they send 7. And the idea behind this is it's best going second because Matrix is better going second, but you would stick this card on board and you would whittle down their resources, and then by the time they go to swing back, they don't have the resources to swing back, plus your monster's being unaffected. And Dogmatika Albazoa, if you'll notice, is a light ritual monster, which also meets the requirements for the targeting protection of barrier, which is crazy, by the way. And then the best reason was the Dogmatika Matrix. So when it's activated, it's of normal effect. It adds either Dogmatika Ritual Monster or Ritual Spell, but if your opponent controls a card, which makes it better going second, it can add any Dogmatika card with it, so it can add 2. And then the other effect that's really, really good is while you control Dogmatika Ritual Monster, so it doesn't necessarily have to be Albazoa, but spoiler alert, that's the only one we play. What you can do is you can take a peek at either player's extra deck, and you can keep sending monsters from that extra deck to the grave. So you can either keep sending from your extra deck to generate resources, or if you got into a simplified game, say you can simply keep sending from your opponent's extra deck until they're out of cards. And then the longer this card stays up, the harder it becomes for the opponent to win the game. So the name of the game is to keep this on board as long as possible. And then obviously you need ritual spells to summon Albazoa. So we have Dogmatika Calamity and Dogmatika Macabra, which Dogmatika Calamity can be best summarized as Necros of Kaleidoscope. They can both ritual summon by tributing monsters on your hand or field. Calamity can send 1 monster from the extra deck whose level meets the requirement of the monster you're trying to ritual summon. And Cabra can banish Fusion or Synchro monsters from your graveyard to up to the level or exceeding the monster that you're trying to ritual summon. And this one can also revive from the graveyard, so it's a mix of Cycle and Mirror. So whenever they deal with Calamity the first time, you have a way to bring it back. And that's it for the actual Dogmatika cards themselves. Like I said, we play a much bigger engine, and I think this is the reason we do really well with the deck. And then I guess for the non-engine picks or tech picks, whatever, 3 preparation rights, it searches Sarveus, and it searches Skull Guardian, and it searches your ritual spell. Like, there's not more. And like a lot of the times, like, you're activating this card with 0 intention of resolving. You're activating it, checking for hand traps. Is basically what you're doing, because if this doesn't resolve, or if they like ash this, they only get 1 ash per turn, right? So that just means Matrix is resolving. And then the other 2 cards we decided to play that weren't hand traps, we played 1 Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph, and we played 1 Iris Sword Soul. I wasn't a believer of the Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph Dragon, but then I actually started playing with it after Lucas convinced me to play it. And then the Spell Negate is actually really important. But people forget this is a pendulum monster that can be scaled, and it can search the follow-up spell for the next turn. So, like, for example, if you've stuck Albazoa on board, you can put this in the pendulum scale, and it can search Cabre. So if and then they know it's in your hand now, so then they realize once they deal with Zoa, like, it's coming back, which is huge, right? And then Iris Sword Soul is for Dogmatika Calamity, because the monster we're sending is Despian Lulu Waylith. And we need something to be able to summon off it, which obviously you can summon Ecclesia off of it, but 9 times out of 10, we're not ending with an extra deck monster on board. So searching a Fleur-de-Lis off Ecclesia doesn't come off. And then originally, the very first list that he showed me was playing Cartesia, which we had a Cartesia line that ended up making Granganol on your turn that sent Malong, and it triggered like a bunch of things. But the problem with Cartesia is if you drew it, we didn't have a way to special summon it. And 2, it can't be attributed by itself if you needed a tribute fodder for a ritual summon, right? So we ended up cutting it, and then he said that we should play this card, which fulfills the requirement of if we draw it and we need to ritual summon, it can be used as the entire tribute, and it still generates a body that's an interruption on our opponent's turn, because it has 3 effects. So if they summon from the extra deck, you can destroy one of the monsters summoned from the extra deck. If they summon from the hand, you can special summon one from your hand, or if they special summon from the deck, you can draw 2 cards, right? So it actually applies a lot of pressure, and then we play 2 of them, because sometimes your lines don't involve summoning Albazoa at all, but you can send 1 copy off of Maximus and you can still summon this because it's a great interruption. And then we already decided when we were like playing the deck, or like when we were just playing matches against Fire, this deck, even if you play the Diviner version, is never going to win a hand trap war with Snake Eyes, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. They play too many, their engine requirements are so minimal, like, you're just not going to win a hand trap war. So we decided we would only play hand traps that would cripple their board enough to make our Matrix activation resolve and be the most impactful. So we landed on 3 copies of Nibiru. Obviously, it clears the board, and then it also fulfills the benefit of being a light monster that can be tributed as the entire cost for Skull Guardian or Sarves, the Ancient and Ascended. I don't know why I couldn't pronounce that. And then we also accompany it with 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. If your opponent is playing Snake Eyes and they're playing the line that plays around Nib that puts the field spell, if you play Ghost Ogre in tandem with Nibiru, they cannot play through it. Because most of the time they put it's either Flamberge or Oak, I can't remember, but they'll put it in the spell and trap zone, and then they get nibbed and they go to activate the field spell to push it forward. You Ogre it, and now they end on nothing. And we thought this was the highest impact hand trap, plus it's really good against other Voiceless Voice matches up. So we decided that it deserved a main deck slot, and it's also really cute if your opponent goes to, like, Zelantis kill you. If they do the play where they make Zelantis, co-link it with 2, and then they go to battle phase and activate the effect to pop a card, if you Ogre the Zelantis, they can't kill you now. So that's pretty neat. And then we also played 3 copies of Ghost Spell. We thought it was one of the better generic hand traps, because we don't think Ash Blossom is very good this format at all, especially since Fire's the most popular deck, so we just don't play it in our main deck at all. But we thought this card was good enough. 1, it's the right attribute, because nothing's going to hit an Earth monster. 2, it's like the most impactful against the Snake Eyes deck, because a lot of their plays revolve around them putting Flamberge and Grave, reviving 2/1s, or using Promethean as the main form of interruption. Well, if you just bell it, it stays in the yard, so they can't do anything with it. And we thought it had the most impact in the matchup. Now, as Fire format has developed, more and more players are playing around this card, so I don't think it's as impactful as it was when we were playing it. But this is what we played at the event. And then for the extra deck, it's literally just food for your Dogmatika card. So we play 2 copies of Entis. 2 of this comes up. You can send one off Nadir Servant. You can send one off Maximus. You can send one off of Matrix. Like we're only playing 1 copy of Guru. We were playing Super Poly for the longest time, but I thought that card was ass, so I ended up cutting it. But we still needed something to send turn 1 that was decent off of Nadir Servant, so we send this. Arguably, we lose Heart of the Droll, but it is what it is. For the Synchros, we'll play 2 copies of Discipline Lulu Wayleth. We are never actually summoning this card because we don't play Granganol anymore. We are literally just sending it off of either Maximus, or technically you can send it off Nadir Servant. You can send it off of Calamity. But it has a very unique effect where it can special summon it can special summon a light spellcaster whose attack equals its defense, which Cartesia is a valid target, but we decided to cut, so that's why we play Iris Sword Soul, because it is 25/25 light spellcaster. We play 2 copies of Herald of the Arclight. A lot of the builds that are playing the Diviner only play 1, but in our version of the decks, 2 does come up, so we play 2. We play 2 copies of Malong. 2 will come up, especially since Kashtira at the time was very popular. So if they take 1, you still have the other one to have access to. And sometimes in games that go on longer where you grind with your opponent, the second one does come up. The reason I like this deck is because we can play Omega, because I like sending it turn 1 if you're doing your Dogmatika plays with Maximus. Because you can send this, and this can check most cards that like your opponent can send. Like if you're playing against Brandon, they send Albion, you could put the Albion back. If you're forced to use your trap card, this could put the trap card back, so on and so forth. So, plus it's at 1, so we play 1. Since we play the Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph, we were playing these 2 cards, and it's just another way to be able to push for game. I personally have never summoned this, but I did watch a match where my boy did summon this, and my opponent had no idea what was happening, and he just told me he could attack 3 times. The next thing you know, the 3 monsters had, like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, it was the Snake Eyes deck. He had cleared the field spell, bringing him back to their original attack, and his opponent just died, so that was funny. And then the 3 Link monsters, we play 1 Dynamundo, 1 Relinquish Anima, and 1 SP Little Knight. Note, there were a couple times seeing these cards, I thought about that maybe we should play Link Karibo, or there's been a lot of times where I draw Maximus, and I thought we should play like Almirage and Sakura Gardna, but these 3 ended up being just fine most of the times. The 1 Dynamundo, we don't make this card a lot because it plays into God knows how many different lines of play and stuff like that, but sometimes you just need the actual Dynamundo to either crack a board, or sometimes your hand's just bad enough where you have to do the line and just pray they don't have like Hold by the Grave or Bell or whatever. Anima's funny when your opponent's not paying attention. And then SP Little Knight's SP Little Knight. And then that was the list I played for the regional in Indianapolis that I got my invite with, playing what I thought was one of the coolest decks in the room. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Obviously, this deck's going to change once we get the new support, because I think we get the Trap card, I think we get the new Saphir, and I think we get the new Spell card. I don't know if that's confirmed yet or not. But I'm going to continue playing this. I'm probably going to start playing some Fire, too, just because I've had the cards for God knows how long, and all my buddies play it. And at some point, I'm going to have to learn how to play the deck. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.